everyone, and thanks for joining us for Italy Awakens. I'm Rachel, and I'm very happy to welcome you to this virtual experience with Venice City Tours. This virtual experience is part of the Tiqets Awakening Weeks, which is a 6-week celebration of the reopening of more than 100 museums and attractions in 6 countries around the world. These venues have worked around the clock to make it safe for you to visit again, and now they're rolling out the welcome mat with these online experiences so that everyone can join the experience and reawaken cultural institutions worldwide. The virtual experience is going to start in just a second, but as people are still joining us, I'll kick off by sharing some logistical information about what to expect. First of all, if you have any questions for the presenter and you're joining us in the Zoom webinar, you can submit them through the Q&A at the bottom of the screen. There will be a Q&A at the end of the presentation about Venice, about the gondola ride, so please feel free to send in your questions. You can also vote on your favorite questions in the Q&A to make sure we ask the best ones first. Secondly, this is a Zoom webinar. Your camera won't be on, but you can use chat to communicate with your fellow attendees and speakers. Just select to all panelists and attendees in the chat, and then everyone will be able to see your message. Finally, this presentation will be recorded, and we'll be sending out the recording to all registrants in coming weeks, so you can see it soon and share it with your friends as well. You can also use the hashtag Awakening Weeks on social media to join in the conversation. You can share where you're experiencing Venice from or share a memory from your last time there. Tag us at Tiqets or use the hashtag Awakening Weeks and we'll share your post. So without further ado, I could not be more excited to transport us to sunny Venice today. So Alicia and the Venice City Tours team, feel free to unmute yourselves and then take it away.
We're going in a gondola today. We're bringing you to see the waterways of Venice, even with the Grand Canal. And here it's me with Tommaso, and we're in one of the most important gondola stations of the city. And it's really close to St. Mark's Square. Now, let's go. Follow us. Grazie. Metto qui? Vado in piedi. Hey, so now we will move from here. We're moving from the parking. So I think everyone in the world knows about the gondolas. The gondolas is one of the symbols of the city of Venice, and so one of the symbols of the city with St. Mark's Square, with the Rialto Bridge, with Bridge of Sighs. But you have to know that gondolas were not like we see them nowadays. So gondolas are here from more than 1,000 years. But the gondola, as we see it now, it's from the 1800. So we're speaking about just 2 centuries ago. And as you can see even now, the balance of the gondola is not equal. So the gondola is asymmetrical because it needs to be leaning on one side to be right with just one oar. And here we see the gondoliere. The gondoliere is one of the most important, so the most showing worker of the city, the one who symbolized the city too, as we can see. And so the gondoliere, you have to know that at the time they were like the taxi driver, the nobleman, and so now they symbolize the city. But in the past, they were like taxi driver nowadays, above all for nobleman. In fact, the owners of the gondolas were just noblemen at the time, and in fact, they knew even a lot about the gossip, the gambling house for all the noblemen in the city. So we start in a really crowded way. Now we're going one of the most relaxing part of the city, the canals, the small canals that we call Rio at the singular. And yes, I didn't say here, but as you can see, there is that part of the gondola, that's the ferro. The ferro it symbolizes the city too, because in the ferro, it's used to balance the gondola, but above all, it's one of the symbols of the city are all the sestieri. In fact, Venice is divided in 6 different districts that we call sestieri. And there is the head of the Doge on the top, and there is the bridge of the Rialto Bridge, and there is even the Grand Canal later. At the end, we will show you better the ferro too. Here we can relax, as you can feel. It's really relaxing, really beautiful. And it seems strange to be in Venice because usually Venice is a really frenetic city with a lot of people. Of course, at this moment, there are less people than usually in the city, just for the virus, as we know really well. But so in here, it's even quieter. And here now on the right, when we look in front of us, on the right there is this red house, and you have to know that this house was owned by Mozart, the very important composer. In fact, Mozart came in Venice during Carnival in 1771, and this house was owned by one of the count of the city. This is the palace, yes, and this house was owned by it's called Cafaletti because this one was owned by the Count Falletti. And as you can see, now later you will see, but anyway, Mozart wanted to have this house because it was really close to the opera house. That in the past it was San Benedetto, and nowadays from the 1792 we know this opera house as the Fenice, Teatro La Fenice, and it was really useful for him. Just 2 minutes walking from here. So these small canals, we call these small canals waterways. You have to know that Venice is composed by, so it's like formed by a union of lot of islands, more than 150 islands. But above all these islands that compose the city of Venice are connected by bridges. In fact, Venice is island linked with bridges. And now we're not in a canal. Now we're now water with Nario. Yes, I stay silent because I want you even to join the secret of the city and the relaxing part of the city. Oh, usually, I don't know if you know, but it's really a symbol too. Even the oil that usually the gondoliers claims whether because so there is this oil that's like to let the other knows that there is a gondola and that they are turning on the left, on the right. So just to symbolize their presence on a canal. And now we're getting closer to the Fenice Opera House. In a few minutes we will see it. But here, yes, you see, it's really quiet. The gondola tour, it's the most relaxing part of the city. And because of the small canals, usually, so if you go in the square, if you go in Rialto, if you see even the view of the Academy, there will be a lot of people. While in here, it's just you with your gondola, with the other people that are enjoying the gondola tour. And it's really, really quiet, really relaxing. Seems to be in another world, we can say. So now after this bridge, we will see the water entrance for the Fenice Opera House. Then, so the Fenice Opera House was built in 1792. And before this theater, there was the Theater San Benedetto. And this one here, at the time, it was one of the most, not the seven most important theater in the city. But nowadays, the Fenice is the only opera house that we have in the island. And it's the only opera house there is in the island of Venice, and one of the most important theater in Italy too. The Fenice is the Italian word for phonics. In fact, the name is right for this building because I don't know if you know, but this palace burned for 2 times in its life. It burned in the 1836 and in the 1996. And it's one of the most tragical moments for the recent Venetian history. But as the bird, the phoenix that rise from its ashes, even the Fenice rise back as it where it was and that, as it was exactly as it was in the same place. So the name is really right for this building. And in Europe, as by a lot of artists, a lot of composers. We spoke about Mozart before, but in here we can even Bellini, Rossini, but even Verdi, Giuseppe Verdi in here, in the Fenice Opera House, he composed the Traviata, one of his masterpieces of text. In fact, even Giuseppe Verdi is one of the most important artists that came in this theater. And now we're approaching to the bridge to the oyster bridge. Oyster because in here it was like the fish market for just oyster. So there used to be the small market for oyster. And the Republic Serenissima for sure. Nowadays, it's one of the part of the city that in here it brings from San Marco to the part of the Academy. Just the only part that we can. From San Marco, it's the closest part bring you to the Academy and Dorsoduro district. Now I just let you relax a little bit because this is the last part that we will be in a small waterway in which we will relax because in few roaring we will be on the Grand Canal. So the main road of the city. Just let you stay quiet just for a few minutes more. Ah, yes, and from here you can see the ferro, the iron of the gondola. with the part of the Sedio, the sixth district, the Giudecca Island, the head of the Doge, the canal, and even the bridge, the Rialto Bridge. So in the ferro there is all Venice. So the gondola is not just a symbol, but even it's Venice in itself. So here in the Grand Canal, we're approaching to the Grand Canal. So now you're looking to our gondoliere, our Ferruccio. But now we're going on the Grand Canal, and here is the seat of the most important hotels, but even the most important buildings all the time. In fact, now I think you will see it. So for sure you will see it, not I think you will see it, but in here, just this palace, so it's the Centurion Palace, really beautiful palace. But in the Grand Canal, you will see Venice as it was excelling during the 1700s. And even you can see the canal as it was for the noblemen of the time. Now here on your right, that's my left, you will see the small palace over there. It's the Guggenheim collection. It was the place where used to live Peggy Guggenheim. And in here now there is just a part of exhibition that stay, and the other one, it changes every year, depends on the period. And there are a lot of palaces, really important palaces were owned by doges, noblemen of the city. So imagine like it was at the time. And this is the main street of the city. We see taxi, water taxi, even water buses, gondolas for sure. But when in that period, there were only gondolas. So just imagine it was in the past, only gondolas, really silent, but it was full of gondolas everywhere. Because the gondolas were used even to move from just one side of the canal to the other, just to move the different districts of the city. And above all, you have to know that nowadays the Grand Canal has just 4 bridges that across it. In fact, there are the most important bridge, that's even the first one that was built across the Grand Canal, that's the Alto. It was built in the 1400s. It was a wooden bridge at the time. Now it's one of the symbols of the city. Then there is the Accademia Bridge. There is the Scalzi Bridge in front of the railway station. And the last bridge it was built a few years ago, it's the Constitution Bridge that we call Calatrava Bridge because it's the architect that built it. Anyway, now this is the church that I love in the city because it has a meaning, this church. This church is called in Italian La Chiesa della Salute. Salute means health, because it was built in the 1600s after one of the worst plague that there were in the city of Venice. And it was built just as a giving, as a present for the Virgin Mary for the liberation from the plague that killed thousands of Venetians at the time. This church was built by Baldassare Longhena. He was only 26 years old when he built this church. He was the architect. And as you can see from the decoration, this church is of the Baroque, is in Baroque style. We can see from the Ghirigoro, all the statues, all the representation. But even this one here, so the Virgin Mary, it's La Madonna della Salute, it's our patron. In fact, there is this festival that there is every 21st of November, and we do like a pilgrim. In fact, we used to go walking to this church, and when we arrive in the church, we open a candle for the health of all our family. So this is really, really beautiful church, even with the meaning that it has. And now from here, what we see in here is the Mar Basin. But on the right, there is the Punta della Dogana. the Punta della Dogana was the place where the ships come from the outside, from other countries, had to pay the duties, the taxes, just to depose the merchandising of the city. And in here there is the word, we see the golden globe that there is over there. It's the word, symbolize the word. This one here is the last part from the Punta della Dogana. There is one of the best overviews of St. Mark Basin. And now the Punta della Dogana, there are lots of international exhibition, because this palace is owned by a collector of art, that's François Pinalou. That own the place. And from here we can see El Paron de Casa, so the owner of the house, or the owner of Venice. That's the bell tower of St. Mark Bell Tower. It's our symbol, the symbol of the city. It's St. Mark concept. And in there we can just see a little bit of Doge's palace. But in front of, on my back there, over there is the San Giorgio Island. San Giorgio Island with the Church of San Giorgio. And the facilities, even that one is built by one of the most important architects for Venice, that's Andrea Palladio. Andrea Palladio, it's really important from the Renaissance. In fact, he's even the one who built lots of churches in the city, but even the villa in our territory, in our region, Veneto. And now at the time there was a monastery over there. And now it's really beautiful. In here now they do exhibition of art too. Venice is a pole for art. It's art itself, the city speaks art from every corner. If you look around, even the most hidden places, you will find some history, some art, or places that are really, really beautiful. For sure, I'm speaking as an inhabitant, but so my heart belongs to the city. But when you see Venice for the first time, you are like, oh wow. Now we were in the main part of the city, main road of the city, as I told you, the taxi, the water buses, gondolas, private boats, everything is in here. And this one here with this one, the Canal Grande, and then there is the Canale della Giudecca after the Punta della Dogana, are the only two canals in the city, because all the others are called rii. And in English we can translate rio as a waterway. Where we're going now, because now we're going back on a small waterway. I spoke about lots of hotels on the Grand Canal, 5-star hotels, brand hotels. Even this one here on the right, it's the Hotel Bauer, a really important 5-star hotels, like the Regina, Hotel Regina or Hotel Trippi. They're really beautiful museums all around the museums, lots of beautiful hotels all around the city. And now as you look, so I think you see all these wooden poles that are where there are the gondolas that are stuck on the poles. So this one nowadays are used to just park, you can say, just gondolas, because most of the time we have just our private boats. We don't use them as people usually use a car, but with the private boat, usually we're no parking in the city, so we just use to move all around the city, just for the free time. And now, so this thick pole, wooden pole, are even the one that, as the city is built with wooden poles, but with everything, all the structure of the building and in wood. That's the reason why there is no fire. We can't have our own small fire in our house, the chimney in our houses. So Venice is with not with poles like this, but wooden poles and platforming wood. So everything is built on wood, but it's really resistant wood. And the city was built the first the first inhabitants of the city were here on the 421. So we're speaking of a lot of centuries ago. And now we're back from where we started. Yes, do you have any question for me?
Yes, there are many questions for you, actually.
Okay, okay.
Nearly 30 of them. A reminder to our audience, we'll ask the most popular questions first, so do go in and vote on your favorites to make sure we get to the best questions.
Okay.
But Alessia, the most popular question right now is from Mario, who wants to know if there are local people still living in the canal houses and if the government pays any sort of subsidy for the people who are living there.
Now we go down. I just go down, then I can answer the question. So yes, here we are. So were you wondering about the houses of the Venetian man?
Yes,
maybe
the house on the canal.
Okay, yeah. On the canal. So I think you know the Grand Canal.
Just any of the canal houses. I think we were on one of the smaller canals when someone asked the question, one of the waterways, as you corrected us.
So as you can, lots of Venetian at the moment. I don't know if you know, but Venice is at the moment. A lot of people is not choosing to, not living anymore in the city center of the city, but there are usually the houses that are on the canals or on the Grand Canal. On the Grand Canal, there are most places that are museums that are, or most of museums, most are hotels, and the one that are in the small canals are, you know, if someone was not rich enough, but usually the houses around the canals is passed by family to family. It's just that goes from generation to generation because it's having a house in Venice, it's really expensive. And above all, you have to know that the houses on the ground floor are not places where people live because of the high tide. I think everyone knows about the high tide. Above all, the one that we had last November, it was horrible for everyone in the city, but the ground floor is not the place where people live because of the high tide. It's really easy. Usually people live from the first floor, but it's really difficult. So it's really just a privilege to have a house on a waterway, but even on a above all over the Grand Canal. If over the Grand Canal, it's almost impossible because most of them are houses of doges or really important men of the city.
That makes sense, and very related, very related to the next question we have, which is how deep is the water, and are lots of buildings suffering from being damp?
So you have to know in the waterways, the canal is not so the small waterways here are not so deep. Usually they are between 1 meter or 2 meters deep, while the Grand Canal it's almost 5 meters deep. In fact, there are all the water buses that goes up and down, water taxis, everything goes to on the Grand Canal. While there is the Canale della Giudecca, that's the canal where usually there are the cruise ships that goes on the city and that arrive to our port in Venice. And that one is even deeper. It arrives almost to 12 meters deep. So this is more or less the waterways run 2 meters, Canal Grande 5 meters deep, and the Canale della Giudecca 12 meters deep.
Great. And then Anne Marie wants to know, why do you love Venice? And also, if you have any favorite places to visit or restaurants to share.
Okay, so I live in Murano Island. I don't know if anyone knows about Murano. Murano is famous for the glass factories, from the glass making. So I love Venice because it's a city where there is art everywhere. I studied arts. I studied tourism more than arts, but a lot of arts from every century, and really love arts. It's really poetic, the city. And going in San Marco, even for me, that I've always seen San Marco Square since I was too really small. I can say my age is when I was 1 year old, 2 years old. I don't remember the first time that I was in San Marco Square, but for every time, even nowadays, that I work close to San Marco, when I go in the square, it's breathtaking. It's something really beautiful. The structure of the square, the Basilica, Doge's Palace, everything, it's wonderful.
Lovely.
It's a must to come in the city.
And she also wants to know if you have any favorite places to visit there or restaurants to eat that you would recommend.
Yeah, so I have many different places. Then it depends on people want to eat from the restaurant. I usually we go in the same places, but things that I want people to know is about Tiqets. That's most a pre. It's usually something that you do before eating. So it's something that you have to try because it's like the tapas in Spain. Usually there is places close to the Alto Bridge that's for really young people, and even there is this fundamenta that's called Fundamenta degli Ormesini, Fundamenta della Misericordia, and there you will find lots of life in the city that usually there are a lot of people that are visiting just the city, but it's a try. It's worth it eating Tiqets in here. And my favorite place is the Salute Church.
Great. And then the next question is from Elizabeth, who says she was last in Venice in 2001, and she says that the water looks a lot cleaner now than it did then. Is the water cleaner?
So yes, it's cleaner because they say even so it was really transferred for the stop of the with the lockdown of the coronavirus. They said it was not polluted anymore as it was before.
So very recent then.
Yeah. Yeah, because there were no water buses, no water taxis, no private boats that were going around the city. Maybe that's the reason why.
And then the next question is from Roger, who says that he keeps hearing that Venice is sinking. What is being done to help this situation?
So a lot of people think that Venice is sinking, but so it's not sinking. There is just a phenomenon of high tide. They say maybe for the global warming, but that's another another thing to think about. It's not a problem of the city now in Venice, where really very frequently a lot of how to say it, but high tide, but really high tide. It's our outside the normal. In fact, last year there was 187 centimeters of high tide. That's not tall like this, but it was, I think, in this area that's really low. I think the water arrived in here.
Wow.
Yeah. In the square, I think someone could, it was similar, San Marco Square. Yes, in San Marco Square, it seemed like a pool, but these are just phenomenon. The water is raising and goes down every 6 hours. So it's cyclic, something that happens every day, every year. Just now, there are more exceptions.
That makes sense.
Exceptional high tide.
Yeah. The next question is, where does the wastewater go? So if someone, has a shower in their home and there's water that's the wastewater, where does that go?
I understood the question. But so the phone in Italy we call fognature, because so now there are just the pozzetti that are like wells that people have to clean up every year. But I'm no, so in the past there used, so it's like a normal city. Even in here there are just they have to clean even more because because so in this way the water is cleaner just for this, even because now there are just small wells, pozzetti we call them in Italian. The well, pozzo is well, pozzetti small wells we can say between like this, where all the the dirty water goes, and then people have to clean up. So that happen every month. Not every 1 month, but every straight 3 months at least.
Yeah. The next question is from Mario, who wants to know how old are most of the buildings in Venice? Is there an oldest building that exists?
Yeah, usually I think they say that Venice is a really old city. I think the maybe if we can say something in the media, it's between 50 and 60 years old. There are a lot. The young people just come in here for university usually,
And is
or
there,
they're growing here.
and do you know which building in Venice is the oldest?
The oldest building in the city, yes, there is the Church of San Giacometto that's near Rialto, here in the Erbaria, and that one was that was built in the 422.
Great.
So
That's
well,
very
not
old. Yeah.
1422.
And then a similar question from Anne
Yeah.
Marie. She wants to know how and why were the Venetian buildings created? So I guess when, as a city, did it first come up?
So the building in the city are all the foundation, all the structure of the building in Venice are in wood, and they are just built with wooden poles that are planted under the water, because Venice in the past, before people built every building in the city, it was like island without nothing. So to build places, they had to put poles like this, not exactly like this, but poles more or less like this, and in this way they're make like palafittes. So all the same palafittes, they're the wooden pole and platform in wood, and then they built everything with the material that they had at the time. Above all, in Venice you will see a lot of Istrian stone, because it was very easy to have the material, because of the Istria was under the control of the city of Venice, the Republic Serenissima.
And then our next question is from Erica, who says, this may be a stupid question. It's not, because five people liked it. They wanted to know, does it ever get cold enough there that the canals freeze over?
It happened even few years ago. I think in 2012, it happened that the canal froze, and it was something different. But usually it happened even 100 years ago. But it's not a phenomenon that happened every year. I don't know what this depends by, but it happened in 2012. It happened.
Great. And then
not everything. Not all the canal. The water bus could go, the gondolas could go, but they were just platforming nice.
Parts of ice, yeah.
Yeah.
So the next person wants to know what our gondolier's name was and how long he's been a gondolier for, you know.
So it depends. Usually the gondolier, it's one word that goes from generation to generation too, because it's a job that goes from father to son, because you learn how to ride the gondola. It's not really easy so it's something that usually goes from father to son. Then it depends. There are people that even can study to become a gondoliere, but gondoliere, so me, it's derives it gives the name by gondola. So this is why it's called gondoliere. Gondola, gondoliere.
And Erica wants to know if the younger Venetians are keeping up the tradition. Are they also?
Yes, usually yes. It's a really good job being a gondoliere. Usually, if someone has in their family has a father's gondoliere, usually it's something that goes on with the youngest man.
Yeah. And what was the name of our gondoliere on the ride?
Ferruccio.
Ferruccio. Do you know how long did he learn from his father?
I think so. I asked him quite a lot of time. So I think it was more or less my age. So for sure, it was 30 years that it was a gondoliere.
Fabulous. I don't know if he's still around, but someone's commenting that I'm sure he has stories as well that would be interesting.
Yes. So the moment is he's helping the other.
Yeah.
Yes, he's on the boat. He's helping with the other gondoliere. Yes.
Yeah. That's fine.
Yes.
On the next question, so Kathy wants to know what is the best part of your job, Alicia, and what's the
The
hardest?
best part of my job
The
that I
best
can go around this, that I can go all around the city, because for me it's really important to see Venice. Even usually when I was studying, I couldn't see Venice as much as I'm seeing now. I'm visiting the most crowded places, even if usually for us it's beautiful to go even in the small corners just to stay quiet a little bit, as it was as I go with the gondola. But the best part is that I can meet a lot of people from all around the world, knowing about tradition, knowing about other languages. So for me, it's really beautiful, these two.
Yeah, lovely. The next question is from Cadence, who wants to
Yeah.
know why are the lampposts painted in red and white?
Uh, because usually the red and white poles were owned. So, for example, this one, but usually they symbolize that it was the presence of a gondola that was owned by a rich man in the city. In fact, you will see that nowadays most of the poles are just in wood, while then there are even the ones that are white and red. Now there are the poles for the hotels or for all these places. So in the time they symbolize the presence of whole old palaces, of palaces owned by rich men.
Fabulous. I'll just take a moment to remind the audience because we have we have more questions now even than when we started, 34.
Yeah.
We won't be able to get to all of them, so do vote on
Okay.
your favorites. You can go in there. There are a lot of them just at 2 votes or 3 votes, so do vote on your favorites and they'll rise to the top. But the next question we have for
Yeah.
you is from Jordana, who wants to know, typically if someone goes for a gondola ride, do they have a tour guide like you with them, or is it typically just them in the gondoliere?
And no, so usually it's with us, you will have the commentary on board. So this is just the only gondola that do, the only agency that do this service. But usually, or there is just the gondoliere that can show you just the places.
Great. So Venice City Tours is who to go to
Yeah.
if you want the commentary on your gondola ride.
Yeah.
The next question, oh, you actually already covered this one about sinking, so we've covered that.
Okay.
The next question is from Anne Marie, who wants to know if you've ever been to the carnival in Venice, and if so, what are some fun stories from that?
So yes, I've been to Carnival of Venice. I worked this February, worked for the carnival in the city, and usually there is the square that's really crowded. There are people everywhere. They make a small theater in the open theater in the square, and so I've been a lot of time there. There are the flight of the, usually the eagle is a famous person, or the angel, the flight of the angel. That usually it's a tradition that goes every year that happens. There is the most beautiful girl in the city. Usually, it's from the bell tower of San Marco goes to this small theater. It's made on San Marco Square. That's
Um,
beautiful. It's
yeah,
really crowded during Carnival. Just, I think you know, but
yeah.
there are people
Um,
in every corner of the city.
the next question is, is there a maximum height of the buildings in Venice? How tall do they get?
They're not so tall. Usually, I think the tallest the tallest buildings in the city are in the ghetto, because mm, because they were really tall buildings. Because about the, so we're speaking even now about another thing, but in the ghetto there are the tallest place, because it was just small district for the city that was for Jewish people, Jewish Venetian people, and they were really tall because they had to stay over the in every house. So usually there are about 6 buildings just in this case, just for six floors. Sorry, just for them, but usually they're not so tall.
Great. And then the next question from Anne Marie is, are the buildings heated in the winter? And if so, how are they heated?
Yeah, I didn't understand the question.
Are the houses heated there? Is there heat in the
Ah,
winter?
yeah. No, yes, there is the heater. There are heater in the city. Yeah. In every house, so it's hot. In winter, we can make hot temperature in our houses, and
Yep.
in cool temperature. don't worry. If you come here, you don't sweat in summer. You will not freeze in winter.
Yeah, great. Anita wants to know, would the wooden stilts in the water eventually rot, or how do they stay, the wood in the water, how does it stay not rotting?
But the water, I didn't understand
So
right.
the wood in the water, the wooden poles,
Okay.
why
Okay,
is it
yes.
that they're not rotting? Wouldn't wood in water
So,
rot?
yeah, no, I understood the question, but because there is just, how to say, but there is scientific proceed that with the salt that there is in the water, that's it like petrify the wood. So I'm not able to explain it in a really good way, but more or less it doesn't break the wood because it's like the salt petrify the wood.
That makes
I'm
sense.
not able to explain better than this way. I'm sorry.
No, no,
for
that's good. The next question is if there's a one-way travel system among the narrower canals, or if people go both directions on all canals
uh,
when they're
just
moving on both.
and so usually we prefer for us Venetian the best way to move around the city is walking, just walking. Usually for the waterways just on the Grand Canal, just
So the next question we have is from Dave, who wants to know if you can swim in the
okay.
canal.
No, it's not allowed. It's forbidden every part.
Forbidden.
Absolutely forbidden. Yeah.
Great. And then Ite wants to know, how is the situation right now in Venice? How's everyone doing at the moment?
So at the moment, part of tourism for sure there is not as much tourism as there were last years. That's a must. That's for sure. But at the moment we're here, we can work, we can do anything. Luckily in Italy at the moment, we have not so many cases for coronavirus. We just, as you can see, we're here on the street. We can stay without masks. So except for the crowded places, that's must the mask.
That makes sense.
But
Um,
yeah.
and then the next question someone has is, where is the best view to see the sunset in the city?
Uh, there is yes, the Punta della Dogana where we saw before.
Yeah.
So after the Salute Church, there was the Punta della Dogana. From that part of the city, you will be able to see really beautiful sunsets. There is all the Zattere promenade, we can say.
Great. And then we have a couple questions on if there are animals in the water, and one person specifically asked about sharks. But
No, in here, no. There are no sharks in here in the lagoon. Usually it happened that there were dolphins outside in the sea, but in the lagoon there are not such animals, just small fishes. The biggest are like this. So not so dangerous.
Yeah.
The animals in the water.
And then a couple people want to know more about the gondola itself.
Okay.
Why are the gondolas painted black is one of the questions.
So I really don't know about the black. I just know that this color, the shape, all the mystery that hide the gondolas was just an inspiration for all the artists, composer, writers. Every artist wrote about there are a lot of artists who wrote about gondolas, but I really don't know why the black color. But it's beautiful, even if it's black. It's not colorful. It's really a beautiful shape.
And someone else wants to know the gilded gold statue that was on the side of the gondola.
Oh, the gondolas.
Yeah.
They're just for decoration.
Just for decoration.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone else wants to know how much it costs to go on a gondola ride in Venice.
How much cost?
Yeah.
So, yes, because there are public rating. So for half an hour, it's 80 euros per gondola. But anyway, just when you meet a gondolier, you can ask them.
Yeah. And then we're getting to our last couple questions since we're almost out of time here. one person asked about glass making, which I know you said you're from an island that's famous
Yeah.
for glass work.
Yes.
They wanted to know if there was any museum that features the best glass work in Venice.
So there is the museum of the Museo del Vetro, so the glass museum in Murano Island, that's close to our Duomo, the main church in the city, in the island of Murano. And there are all the show all the different the style in the ages, and so it's beautiful. So in Murano you will see a lot of glass making, different, because then every master of glass had their own shape, they are different styles. So it depends on the master too. Anyway, just there is the Museo del Vetro.
Great. And then this will be our last question as we're almost out of time, but it's quite
Okay.
a one about the locals. So
Okay.
Erica wants to know if Venetians learn how to drive when they go outside of Venice. Do they most of them rely on public
But
transit? How
yes,
do they get around most?
no, yes, no. So in Venice, we just move usually by walking, or we take the water bus. For example, as I live in a small island, I have to take the water bus because the other option is swimming. That's not allowed. So it's better taking the water bus to come in here. But then, so usually when we go, there is the mainland. The mainland it's really close by. We call it Mestre. In here, it's called so. No, we call it. The name is Mestre in here, and so Venetian can drive. Don't worry. If you meet a Venetian in the street, it will be able to drive.
Someone in the chat comments
if the,
driving
no
in
no
it.
if the license they can drive. Don't worry.
Someone in the chat just commented driving in Italy is scary.
No, don't
Okay,
worry.
lovely. Alicia, I know I speak for everyone in saying we've so enjoyed this tour of Venice. People
Grazie.
said it was so peaceful and they've really enjoyed it.
Yes,
And thank you for answering all the many questions they've sent in as
grazie a
well.
voi.
Um,
Grazie a voi. Thanks you.
yeah. So
Thank you.
thanks for everyone joining us. This virtual experience was part of the Tiqets Awakening Weeks and Italy Awakens. So if you're in Italy, or if you're really lucky and in Venice, you can of course take place in person, experience Venice city tours, or experience any of the activities going on in Italy this week. From wherever you are, you can also find more online virtual experiences today and next week in the US at tickets.com/blog/awakening weeks. And thank you so much again to Alicia, to Venice City Tours,
Grazie a voi.
and all of you for joining. We look forward to finding more ways to culture with you all again soon.
Grazie.
Goodbye.
Ciao. Ciao
Ciao.
ciao. Ciao a tutti.